Okay, this is take two because the other clip was pretty bad. This is a mate used to live up the road, a couple of doors up, and he's got all these engine blocks. He does a lot of rebuilds. Some you can't rebuild, or it's cheaper to just replace the engine. And he just specialises. And come down one day and he said, Joe mentioned about engine blocks, and I asked him about how much he gets for it, and he was getting like 30 cents a block or something like that, 30 cents a kilo, which was just absolutely crazy. So I said to him, I mean, you pay $6 a kilo for this aluminium extruded, and the extrusion process is not much more effort than actually melting it down. They draw it out and then they've got to quench it straight. So yeah, basically I said, I'll build you a blast furnace. He looked at me like I was just crazy, and it took me half a day to make it. And it took me about another just 2 or 3 hours every afternoon, just getting hoses and blowers and bits and pieces, trying to get it to work. And once I got it to work, it'd start straight away. So yeah, I built it, and I said, bring down an engine block, and he just still thought I was crazy, and chucked one in and melted it down. And it took literally like 4 minutes to do a little 2.4 litre V6 from a Daewoo or a Hyundai, whatever it was. And then we were doing 3 litre V6s in about 4 to 6 minutes, just depending on how I'd set it up. So here's the actual this will give you an idea how much aluminium's there. So literally it'd take 2 of these to make a bain-marie, because these are all hollow. And we melted all this and some other stuff, and I think this go this way. Yeah, and this is the end result. Give you an idea. It looks really rough, but it's actually quite smooth when you see it. So this was the aluminium coming in, and the bottom of the tin, once this had cooled, the bottom of the tin would move away, and the top was quite flat as well, just a bit ripply, but it's all pure aluminium. And I'll go to the next one. So that was about 32 kilos. I think these were about 15 to 17 kilos. I'll go to the next one, and that's what they were melted down from. Now I'll go to the next one. I'll try and pull. Just watch your ears for a sec. So just watch your ears if you've got headphones in. Pause it. Okay, so that's the clip. If I just okay, so you see me mucking around. I'll explain this again. So that's the blower, right? That's 90 mil PVC. That's a rubber sleeve, heavy duty rubber sleeve, 2 hose clamps, and then the air comes through. 2 more hose clamps, and there's a piece of pipe goes in, and I kicked it. It's got a slight angle down, so the air has to cavitate, mixes with the oil better. And you see the oil coming in here. This comes in at the top of the pipe. You need to have this slightly higher than that point there, otherwise it'll run back into the blower when you're trying to get started. And yeah, basically the air comes in, points downwards, and it sort of has to cavitate. You get this is an LPG heater right here. You put that on the back of the bottle, and you heat the bottle. And you got to get the bottle up to temperature, so when the oil hits it, it starts to boil. And then what you can do is you can actually get a piece of wire, rebar, like some 6mm stuff, and just coil it, and then drill a hole in the side of the pipe and have it come out, and clamp on down here, and have a drill a hole here, have the wire stick out for a hole here, have it coil, and have it stick out. Just get a like a decent sized battery, and clamp it at the top and clamp it at the bottom, and it should make the coil go red. You might have to insulate it. You might have to put a rubber. You might have to just I don't know how you do it. You probably have to have it so you lower it in, right? Have the wire come down, coil, and come back out, and you hook your two electrodes up, one there, and then hook your battery up to it. It glows red hot. As soon as it's glowing red hot, turn your oil on. Then disconnect your battery, turn your blower on, drop the lid on, and then the flame comes out. So it'll save you heat in the bottle. Normally you put wood in there, burn the wood a little bit, so you've got embers to keep the oil going, and then once she kicks off, she kicks off. Now this is actually the flame turned down. When the flame was up full blast, the flame would be big enough to melt this 44, but you've got to keep the flame about 3/4 the size of the inside of the drum, because you still have to get air to go in there and feed the flame. So as the flame goes in, all the air rushes in to feed the flame, and then the air rushes out the top. So you got to have a bit of a if you had like a flue where it came out and came back and then went up, so you could let the hot air out, so you can let more air in, and just have a bit of a you need an S on there just to restrict it slightly, otherwise you lose too much heat. And yeah, that's a Banbury. That's about 32. This one's about 34 kilos. This one's quite overflowing, and I'm just flattening it out because you can see the constant feed. That's like a drip coming down there now. And left in here's all the dross and all the metal left behind. And I just use the stake to fish out any bits of washers or rings that look like getting near the edge. But because when they melt, they sort of roll around a bit. So you just flick them to the back. And it's got a lip on the front here as well, so if they do come down too far, the lip will catch the any metal. There's only a small little gap for the it's up about 100 mil where the actual aluminium can come through. And that's pretty much it. This is a piece of copper tube. This is a oil container with a tap. Put a hose on it. Hose goes on some copper. Put an elbow on it into the top of this pipe. Runs into here. Heat it up and turn it on. This is a $100 blower. So. You can use the same process to make castings as well. You need to get an old welding, some kind of old steel tank about 5 or 6 mil thick. Put it on a little Bunsen burner, preheat it, and then pour the aluminium into it. And as long as that metal's kept hot, because this melting point's about 600 degrees C, and as long as this metal container's kept hot, you can just pour it into your moulds. And good way to value add. So if you made a sculpture, even a couple of whales, and pour it. You can charge $100 for the whale, and you can turn basically $34 worth of aluminium into $100 or $200. You can make an anchor out of it, anything you want really. Let's come back here a bit. Where is it? So here, this is waste oil. I said put in the other video, put in 5 to 20%. You don't even really need to do it. You don't really need to put any oil in there, any fuel in there. You can put diesel in there, a bit of diesel to mix it, but you only need a bit of a cutting agent to get this thing going. So something to give it something of a higher flammability, I should say. But if you get this thing hot enough, you can just run straight oil. Some of this had a bit of water in it, so put in about a cup of petrol. You see, just put a cup of petrol in there, swish it around a bit, and then it basically allows for thick oil to flow through it better as well. So that's pretty much it. It was just I was looking up oil heaters from Waste Oil, and his son runs a Greek restaurant, so we had a bit of fun with it. And this was done in 34 degrees heat, and the front of my pants was so hot it was like being in a blast furnace. I had to stop and hold the pants off my legs. And this is what they don't want people doing. They don't want sons of men like this who can, you got a problem, we can do this, we can fix it. I can make you a heat exchanger, I can make you a still, simple stuff. There's a guy up in far northern New South Wales, and he was making a frequency resonator, which actually, imagine your air is made up of about 8 different elements: argon, krypton, nitrogen, helium, carbon dioxide, and a few others, and in small amounts like krypton. And so when it goes in your car, it's air, it's non-flammable, right? Air isn't flammable. You need a source of ignition to burn the air, and you're really only burning the nitrogen and the oxygen in the air. So he made a frequency generator when he was trying to make a HHO supplement, because the fuel prices were pretty high back in the 80s and 90s. And he actually made a frequency resonator which actually resonated the right frequency to separate oxygen and nitrogen. So imagine getting a cup of milk and adding in strawberry, chocolate, mint, and the colours match the flavour, so it's green, brown, red. You're going to end up with a yellowy brown sort of substance. Well, his machine separated those gases into their separate flavours, into the separate colours as they went into the combustion chamber, and the engine was able to ignite the oxygen and the nitrogen. Now people will say that's bullshit. Well, if you go and look at a top fueler runs on nitrous oxide. So nitrous oxide is nitrogen and oxygen, right? Nitrous oxide, it's NO, right? And the end result of running top fuelers is extreme energy, extreme power, extremely explosive, but in the current form, very I suppose, it's probably not a very scientific way to describe it, fairly safe. Like, the other thing too was in the water, there was water in the in this mix, so some of these had water in them, and when I'd put the fuel in to mix it up, the water sort of got mixed through, and it didn't go white, but you could tell there was water in it. And when this thing was burning, you can see this pulse when it was, I won't play it because it's too noisy, but I'd actually turn the oil off at this stage, so the bain-marie pot's full, and I'm just flattening it out, and then I just turn the blower off. But there's a point on here. See that this is it running down, but when I go to here, you'll see quite a decent flame. I'll go try and find it. So this is me running it down, and where is it? There you go, right there. So you see quite a decent flame there. Well, that's only a third, right? So it would be pure white. So that's running down. Normally the flame fills the whole thing. If I turn it up full blast, this flame is the size of the 44, and the flame bulges out the side, and it sort of cavitates and consumes itself, and then sort of stalls. Because you need air running past this tube. Believe it or not, if you put your hand near here, you can feel the air rushing past, feeding the flame. And yeah, this is sort of like one of the last things I did. I repaved all this ground, re-leveled it. I dropped the whole backyard by 200 mil. Put the retaining wall in, put all the drains back in. I did shitloads to this house. And so, yeah, basically, this is a simple and easy way to turn scrap aluminium into a usable size. Now, if you're going to melt it down, I suggest you don't do it like this. Don't do big blocks like this. Do long, skinny blocks, because if it's skinny, you can get the heat around it. This is quite a thick cross section. Once you get the heat into it, it'll melt anyway. But the thinner it is, the shorter your melt time. But once this did start to melt, relative to doing lots of small ones, it wouldn't be that much different. But in the short term, the skinny ones are a lot better. Yeah, so this is just a bit of fun. And so it went from melting all this. I'll just play it one more time. So you can see that as it's dripping down, it's quite fast. This is actually quite slow because there's no aluminium there either. And it'd be like pouring a kettle out. That's how fast it is when this flame is up. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Alright, bit of fun. Just showing you what you can do in your backyard. And obviously you don't want to do this. Best time to do this is middle of the day when everyone's at work, so you're not pissing the neighbours off. And making too much noise. You can hear this. The loud sort of noise is the blower, And this was a bit like running a not a chainsaw, but it's a different kind of noise. But it's noisy. You can hear it. It's a lower frequency noise. You can hear it further, but it's not as if you walked out to the front of the road, you barely hear it. You could hear it, but it was like a lawnmower off in the distance. But it wasn't that bad. The winding from this plus that noise, it was a little bit annoying, but yeah, it's just not as bad as a chainsaw, but louder than a lawnmower. And yeah, you probably will need some chaps if you're going to do it 35-degree heat, because it was stinging me that day. Alright, bit of fun, and I'm just putting this one up because this is a bit better footage. I'm putting this up so someone can see it, because they're in another part of the state, and it's too hard to try and email it. So that's pretty much it. That's a little blower there. Alright, done.